Order. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and the order of events tonight will be as follows. For each public hearing, staff will introduce the agenda item and present a summary of the staff report. The applicant will then be asked to explain their proposal in further detail and answer any question from the Planning Commission members. I will then open the floor to public comment, first for persons in support of the application, and then for persons in opposition of the application. When you step up to the podium, please state your name, address, and speak into the microphone. Speakers are encouraged only to address new and relevant information pertaining to the item. Above all, please be nice. Refrain from side conversations, speaking out of turn, or you will be asked to leave. Lastly, decisions of conditional use permit applications may be appealed to the County Board of Commissioners by submitting a letter to County Planning and Zoning Office within 5 business days. All right, with that all said, I'll call to order. We'll do roll call. Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Poppins?
Here.
Would be Hogan.
Hogan.
I'm here.
Commissioner Hogan. I even wrote it down, it's right here. And Commissioner Scott's on the phone?
Here.
And Commissioner Jungling here. All right, thank you. Approval of the meeting minutes. I assume we've all had a chance to look at them. Do we have any changes to make?
I would so move to approve as printed.
Second.
All right, motion second, any discussion? Seeing none. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is a yes. All right, we have the meeting minutes. We have the agenda. Any changes to the agenda, Mr. Brown?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you much. Do we have any changes, commissioners, for the agenda? All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda for this evening.
Second. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is a yes. All right, at this time, I'll ask for any public input on items not on the agenda tonight. So if you have something you'd like to discuss in the county or whatnot, yeah, please feel free to come up.
Oh, you guys don't have the, I was gonna show you a picture. I'm Rhonda Sherman, 47008 Terry Lane. Oh, wait a minute. Can't see it anyway. All right. My question is, there is a lot by Double H Paving that I have done a complaint on, and I still see them dumping concrete, crushing concrete on an agricultural section of land that I want to know what's going on with it because I still see dump trucks coming through.
Okay,
And that's probably to Toby, I don't know, but
sure. You know, we
it's,
might need to follow up with you on that one
yeah.
without looking that one up, but
I
Mr. Brown, do you have any information on that
Yeah,
parcel?
I can talk to Rhonda after the meeting, but it's under compliance right now. So
Okay.
staff is working on the property.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Rhonda. All right, is there any other public input on things not on the agenda tonight? All right, with moving on then, we'll go to old business. Mr. Brown?
There's no items tonight under old business, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think we'll start with our hearings. Number one.
Okay, thank you. So this first item is an application from the Hoffmans, specifically Kenneth K., Linda, and Scott Hoffman. This is an application to change the zoning of a 2-acre parcel from the A1 Agricultural District to the C Commercial District. This item was brought before you a couple months ago, and it was tabled by you at that time. And then last month, of course, you removed it from the agenda. Staff did repost the property, send notification to adjacent property owners, and also posted notice in the public newspaper for this to be an official public hearing, so you can take public comment on this item. But I'll go quickly kind of through the synopsis of this. Again, this is an application to change the zoning of a 2-acre parcel. As you can see, the only part that would be a little bit different on this map is this piece was just recently rezoned to light industrial by the county. But this particular area, as you've heard staff mention before, is that there's quite a bit of mixed uses within this area. There's residential, granted it's ag zone to the east and to the north of the subject property. I know that this is occupied to the north, but I'm not clear if this house is occupied at this time to the east. But Tower State subdivision is directly to the south of this across 273rd. And most of Tower Estates was lots of record prior to density zoning. So as you can see, those properties were never rezoned to our rural residential. However, this parcel, and then there's a further parcel to the east, was rezoned by the county to rural residential to allow construction of a dwelling on those lots because there wasn't an eligibility on those lots. Again, this property is identified by the Lincoln County Comprehensive Plan as being an urban expansion area for the city of T. The city of T's comprehensive plan identifies this property and the surrounding area as future employment center. So as stated in the staff analysis, this application is generally in conformance with the Lincoln County Comprehensive Plan for the petitioned application. However, as I also pointed out in the staff analysis, we do know that there is neighborhood opposition to this proposed rezoning, primarily because of the residential component of the neighborhood. This is a difficult application because there's, again, a lot of mixed uses in there. What we also did say, as we said to the property that was recently rezoned to I-1 or to I-1 to the north, is that any development that would occur on these properties would have to be screened from the residential properties and those different types of things. But saying that, there's nothing contingent that you place on a rezone at this time. You just either say recommend approval or denial of it. Again, tonight is a public hearing, and then at that time, the board will either recommend approval or denial. That recommendation will go to the Board of County Commissioners probably within the next month, and they'll be the ultimate decision maker of it. Your role is just to recommend a decision to it. With that, if you have any other questions regarding that application, I'll certainly answer them at this time. I'll interrupt myself before I do that. I'm a little off the wagon wheel, so I was gone last month, so I'm getting back on. But this application did not include a concept plan. So there wasn't a concept plan submitted with the application identified. Typically what we would see is that they anticipate that they're going to construct a building on the property or that there would be some type of anticipated use. At this time, and I did talk to the applicant last week, at this time the concept plan is that they're going to sell the property and the property would be sold to someone else and for development in that, which is fine. There's no requirement that there's a concept plan submitted with the application. It just allows the neighbors and us as staff to understand kind of what the application is. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any further questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Very good job. Missed a month, you're still right on.
I try. Yeah.
All right, Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Brown?
Do you feel that the commercial rezone would fit the comprehensive plan the best with its proximity to I-29, or what's staff's feelings on how it should go?
Yeah, I mean, the petitioned application meets what we've identified as future land use for that area. Granted, there's some residential there, but the interchange is going to go through, recently the public's been made aware that the interchange is going to go through some changes in the next few years, that it's going to be widened, and so will the roads along there as well. And so, again, that's what's the land use is anticipated. The challenge here is that we've got existing land uses there. And so as always, when we're doing planning, you always want to make sure, are we anticipating what future land uses are going to be? But we also have quite a bit of mixed uses in there that we have to make sure that we're bringing into account too. So, you can see both ways. Is it going to affect the character of the area would be the main question you're going to ask, is that part of it? And as staff, I think that's better answered by the public that's here tonight with that. But that would be part of your consideration is, does this affect the general character of that area by changing it to it? Or is there enough already commercial and light industrial in that vicinity that would not affect the general character of it? Okay.
Commissioners, any additional questions?
Yeah, Jerry, I have one. This is Eric on the phone.
Yes.
Toby, what's your feelings on, or how many of these get recommended for approval without a plan to go along with them?
Well, I mean, a rezone is not contingent on anything, so even if someone does present us a plan, it's not guaranteed that that's gonna be the resulting plan. And so I think, again, it's in all honesty, the plan is that they intend to sell it, and then it will be developed by someone else. And so that's the concept. So concept doesn't necessarily need to be a visual plan, it just needs to be what's the future use of that property, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Brown, you said, what did the T comprehensive plan was? You said employment area, is that, did I hear that right?
Yes, their node identified as a future employment center.
Okay. Commissioners, any additional questions? Seeing none. All right, I will ask the applicant come forward, state your name, and tell us a little bit more about your application.
Scott Hoffman, 1109 Southwest Avenue, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Three things I'd just like to touch. I went to the DOT meeting in T, where they, I guess, unveiled what the new interchange is gonna look like. And it's gonna be like the T interchange, the new one. And it's gonna be 6 lanes from Harrisburg exit off I-29 to Lenox. Possibly now they're looking at the new 85th and I-29 of trying to add lanes on that. If not, they'll leave the room for future. So it's gonna definitely change the whole outlook of that I-29 and the highway going across. So if you take a look at that east-west highway that goes over the interstate, which comes between our properties, the residential and commercials, there's a 50-foot easement from the middle of the road on both sides. I can guarantee you Lincoln County's probably gonna take that. They're not gonna leave that 2-lane narrow like that with what they're gonna do. So for me, on that 2 acres, they're gonna take 50 foot from the middle back out. And then I'm gonna have to give them another easement back in. Well, if you look, where's that other map you had up? Well, anyway, if you look at the corner, if you go to the northeast corner, I know Drew had made a comment at the last meeting about how there's a water, that's a national, what do they call it? Or a federal water.
Wetland or something?
Yeah, whatever. So you can only go so far back. So then I've got the gravel road on the other side where I've got an easement in. So I had 2 contractors come out. One is my father-in-law, who's retired now, and another one is a contractor that's built a lot of strip malls in the Sioux Falls area and that. And I asked them what they thought. And they both said, about the only thing you're gonna be able to do here commercially is probably do 4 or 5 suite strip malls. And that's gonna be it, because you can't do a convenience store wouldn't have the room with the way it's gonna work. And then as far as rock piles, nobody's gonna pay me per square foot to come pile rock on that. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. Then you've got, you look at the comprehensive plan from T in Lincoln County. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's the future plan is commercial all the way to the interstate. They're gonna put a lift station in eventually. I mean, it is what it is. And then, you know, you've got Double H, which is kind of the controversial 2-acre lot there. That's where Drew's having problems with rocks and stuff like that. If that goes commercial, and then you've got light industrial, you've got the middle commercial, which is unoccupied, he doesn't live there, but then you got the denies that live just north of that property. I don't know what to tell you. It just seems fair to me that we should be able to rezone it if you're gonna give Double H and the light industrial, and I mean, that's just my thoughts. I think, it's fair to say, and I think whoever does buy it, like I say, it's gonna be a small enough area then, you're not gonna be able to put up a big, some type of industrial building. But anyway, that's, all I got to say. Got any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Hoffman?
Mr. Hoffman, I think I asked you this at the last meeting, but what was the genesis? How did you end up with just the 2 acres left out of all that?
It's been in the family for a couple generations. And it started out as a HAP section.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother, she had that, and she had some other farmland over by T. Well, she ended up in a nursing home unconscious for 12 years. And she slowly ate up a lot of the property is what happened. My father died, and my brother and I bought the 4 tracts from the estate. And we sold the 2 acres to Double H, which is where they're piling. And then Drew bought from my brother, where his house is now. And then we've got the 2 acres left on the corner. But like I say, that 2 acres, I mean, it's gonna get small real quick.
Sure.
Because what's gonna happen out there, especially on that highway, and it's gonna be all its property owners are gonna take the hit from Lincoln County, because they're gonna, I guarantee you, they're gonna take that easement. They're gonna widen that road. For as big of an interchange as that's gonna be. But that's part of the deal, you can't do anything about it. So,
All right, Commissioners, any additional questions? See none. Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
thank you.
All right. At this time, I will ask anyone from the audience to come up and speak in favor of the application. All right. I will now invite anyone up to speak in opposition of the application.
Hey, I'm Drew Denine, 27290-470th. I kind of, I can understand where he's coming from on a lot of the things that he's saying, but a lot of the things he's saying also go towards our speaking points. One, if it's too small to build any kind of commercial building there, why do we need to rezone it commercial? If they're gonna take some easement and there's a wetland there, it's just gonna become too small of a lot to do anything substantial. I don't know why we need a strip mall out in the country. That's beyond me, but another point I got, like he was saying, it's been in the family for generations. Ed and Kay lived there for 40 plus years, and they had plenty of opportunity to rezone it while they were living there. Within 2 years of them selling it to me, now they're trying to rezone it. And the reason they didn't rezone it is because it was an inconvenience for them. It was detrimental to their lifestyle there. It's just, nobody wants to live next to a gas station when they're living out in the country. Just all sorts of things like that. As far as the mixed uses, it's a residential agricultural area. I mean, there's a couple storage units to the east of us, but the guy that's right next door to me, his name's Kelly. He doesn't live there currently, but he's repairing the property and the house. I've spoken with him several times. He fully intends on moving in and living there. He just had some problems with the wet years and the basement flooded, so he hasn't been able to remodel it, but.
When you say next door, is that directly to the north of you, or is that?
To the east of me,
To the east of you.
yeah. Kelly Reuter, I think is his last name. Yeah, he fully intends on living there, and I've spoken with him about all the issues we got going around, and he fully agrees with me and all of our neighbors. He's against it, but I'll let you speak to him about that. I just really don't feel there's a need for it. And then on a personal side note, I've spoken with Scott's brother Ed on the phone. I tried to find a peaceful solution that we could get around all this without rezoning it. I offered to rent it from him. I offered to buy it from him. I bent over backwards trying to find a solution, and he was very arrogant about it. I'll just leave it at that, but wouldn't even discuss anything with me. On the other hand, DJ here, he's a perfect stranger to the lot north of me. He approached me, he was forthcoming about everything, just bent over backwards to make me happy and work with me. He's a perfect stranger and he did all the right things, so I gave him my approval there, and seems like he's gonna be a good neighbor. But Ed is a guy that I called him family. We spent Christmas together every year, that type of thing, and he wouldn't even give me the time of day or let me know what was going on at all. He's just not been very cooperative or nice about this whole thing, and I just really feel any kind of rezoning there is gonna be detrimental to our way of life, living out in the country, so I'm fully opposed to it.
Thank you.
Kevin Wheeler, 47022 Terry Lane. Just opposed to the rezone, mainly the same reasons. I guess one of the biggest concerns is we have no idea. I know it's not a law or statute or county ordinance or anything as far as having a plan, but I think typically there is at least some kind of conceptual plan as well as like a drainage thing, and I personally feel drainage is a big concern there. The corner that would be buildable of that lot is low, and would require some fill. And then we were also talking about different land uses, so I just thought I'd show that the comprehensive plan for the county that doesn't probably necessarily agree with the city of T, and I know it's kind of a messy area, as we said, just the multi-use out there, but the comprehensive plan for the county shows more of the commercial stuff to the east of the interstate, which I know some of it's there, but there is obviously still some land available along the interstate, which I would feel would be a better location for more commercial, just given what's there. Yeah, he'll be able to pull it up. And then in the comprehensive plan, it also shows a map of current land use, and you'll be able to see all of the other properties along the highway and how more densely populated it is the closer you get to T. So I'd just like to say I'm opposed to it, and there it is. If you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer.
Thank you very much. All right, is there anybody else from the audience who'd like to speak in opposition of the application?
My name is Kerry Kloiber at 47002 Terry Lane.
Carrie?
Yes.
Okay.
Directly south of that property. And Kevin brought up a good thing about the drainage, because there's been times when my house has been basically on an island because of all the water that comes through that area. Now we start looking at commercial paving, building. Where's all that drainage going? Now it's not gonna soak into the ground. We're gonna have more water coming around that we don't want. So just a big issue for me, being on the corner there. I get enough water for everybody, so I don't need anybody else's. So.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Ira Sherman, I would just be south of that property, 47008 Terry Lane. I'm opposed to it. I sure don't want a strip mall just across the road from me. As far as the water and everything, you'd have to build that property up so far, because if you ever been over there, it just drops. I'd hate to see how many truckloads of dirt you'd have to haul in there to make anything worthwhile. A piece of property would be awful small. I think we'd be better off to see if he could sell it as residential, because there would be room for that, but.
Thank you.
Terry Mark, I'm at 47014 Terry Lane. I rose and spoke against this rezoning 2 months ago, and I haven't changed my mind. I'm still against it. Did you receive a letter from Jerome Miller?
Yes, I will read that when they're done
Okay,
with this
well,
review.
when Jerome, I thought, put it pretty eloquently why we're against this thing, and when he reads that later on, I'll appreciate that. One thing I would like to say, did any of you attend the DOT meeting that night? No?
I did not.
There was probably, I don't recall for sure, 6 to 8 different plans. And nothing was set in, motion to adopt one plan or another. So I think that widening that road, is not a valid excuse at this time. It doesn't, to me, it just doesn't carry any weight because, that's like, they're talking like 2028, I think, for this project to get rolling. So, there's a lot of time. But anyway, yes, I am definitely opposed to this rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else in the audience like to speak in opposition of the application?
Randy Haber from 47024, or my old address, 47018 Terry Lane. I'm in opposition to this. I agree it would probably be better suited as a residential than it would commercial at this point. Just way too soon to be turning that commercial, in my opinion.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for all the comments. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak?
I'm DJ Verhey, 7009 East Sierra Trail in Sioux Falls. I'm currently in the process of, I guess we got the rezone, but working through purchasing the land just to the north of the denies. And I guess I'd just want to speak in support of Katie and Drew and the conversations that I had with them. I know in looking at what we were looking at doing with the property to the north of them, a lot of what I put into thought while we were going through that was, I know there's been a lot of people there before I tried coming in. There's probably going to be a lot after, but I know that that's their home, that's where they live, and so it was very important to me that whatever we were going to do with it agreed with their lifestyle and how that worked. And the other part of that, initially, even before I had talked to them, was just in seeing that there was a home there, and obviously people living there. We wanted to do whatever we would do as far as building, et cetera, on the furthest point away from them. And then leaving that south side kind of as a good buffer zone. A lot of what I do in building fence, a lot of the fences we put in are to provide a buffer between apartments and residential, and different things like that, whether it's for the view or noise or security and those types of things. And I think just in looking at this property, especially when you're looking at the easements and the setbacks, the space is pretty limited. I know from where on the property that we're working with, we've got about 150 feet from Katie and Drew's property line before any of our building would even start. And without looking and knowing dimensions on the lot that we're talking about, 150 feet eats up a pretty good chunk. And so I think, if we're talking about rezoning it to commercial without having plans, I can definitely see where Katie and Drew are worried, because I would think, that it's probably going to be built as close to that shared property line as could possibly be to get the most use out of it. So I don't know land values between residential and commercial, what that percentage of difference is, but I think if they're looking at selling it, you know, I know I've talked with Drew and he had some interest in purchasing it, and so I don't know if they even have a price in mind on what they would list it for, if they could get it rezoned to commercial, if that's what they're looking at doing, but I feel like that would, without a conceptual plan, maybe be a good option to approach before kind of throwing something out there that, you know, that's where they live, that's where their family lives, that's where their kid's gonna grow up, and I think that was their goal when they bought it, and I think that's still their goal today, so that's all I got.
Thank you, DJ. All right, any additional comments? Or seeing none?
Just that one, Mr. Chairman. So
Yes.
this is a letter that I received last week. This letter is in reference to the second rezoning request of Mr. Kenneth Hoffman for the following property, Lot 1, Hoffman Addition, Southwest Quarter, Section 31, Township 100 North, Range 50 West. My wife Robin and I will be out of state when this meeting is held. I am writing this letter to make you aware of our continuing concerns and reasoning for opposition to this change. At the July 19th, 2021 Planning and Zoning meeting, the majority of the affected neighbors, us included, attended to express our concerns about changing the zoning of this small piece of property. The only attendee in support of the zoning change was Mr. Hoffman. The past building in the area has been residential with 2 recently constructed homes, one just being completed. It would appear that this is the direction planning and zoning is taking this area. As 26-plus year residents of this area, we agree with the planning and zoning decision to grow and maintain this residential neighborhood. Rezoning this parcel to commercial is not wanted by the majority of the neighbors. Mr. Hoffman stated he has no plans for the property other than to sell it. His only justification for this change is to profit more on the sale. The fact that the Hoffman family has no building eligibilities left should be in no way affect the rest of the neighborhood or have any bearing on this decision. Making this change so one man can profit at the expense of the neighborhood is a dangerous precedent to set. The commission clearly saw the opposition to changing the zoning on the 19th of July. We were very upset that the commission chose to kick the can down the road. The decision was an easy one then and is an easy one now. Deny the application for a zoning change and keep our family neighborhood a family neighborhood. Our sentiment has not changed since the first meeting. I pray the Planning and Zoning Commission will do the right thing on the 20th and deny this application. Respectfully submitted, Jerome and Robin Miller, 46989 273rd Street, T, South Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, unless there's any other people like to speak, I'll close the floor to public comment, and I'll ask a motion from the commission so we can discuss.
To start the discussion purposes, I'll move to approve the rezone.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, who wants to go first?
Jerry, this is Eric on the phone.
Yes.
I guess one question I have for Toby. Toby, when was the comprehensive plan put in that identified the half mile off either side of the interstate exits?
The original plan was adopted in 2005. It was updated in, pull it up once here. I think it'll say it here. If I go back up to here. It was amended in 2011.
Okay.
So that featured land use map was revised and updated in 2011. The comprehensive plan identifies not as a nodal commercial, identifies that area as an urban expansion area. So
it does?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
All right, commissioners, any other discussions or questions?
Question for Toby.
Yes.
Can you timeline give me when did this parcel be platted the last time it was platted? Do you know?
I think the 4 lots were original plats. I don't recall what date it was.
I was curious, is it prior to 95, after 95?
It does not have a building eligibility.
If-
Yeah. It does not have a building eligibility, so it would be after.
Yeah, I realize it doesn't have building eligibility. I was just trying to get a timeline of why it got platted off when it did and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, let me pull it up once here.
While he's looking that up, comments that I would share with you is that it's currently ag, a 2-acre parcel, as an viable ag piece of land is probably not, in most people's mind, a viable piece of ag land. That being said, does not necessarily mean it is the appropriate time, nor is it the appropriate change to that's being requested now, but the time is coming. All we have to do is look to a few miles to the north, 85th Street. A lot of individuals up there thought that was rural area, would be rural area a lot of years. I've grown up in this area too. Surprises me. I remember my dad speaking of Sioux Valley Hospital, and there was cornfields around it. We are in a very fortunate situation. Things are changing. It's tough to change. That doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do at this time, but I am saying that it's coming. And the idea that it's going to stay at a 2-acre piece of grass is probably not going to happen for very much longer. If it isn't now, it will be sometime. The question that the board will have, and this board has a recommendation, is to decide if it is the right time and is this the right change. That's something each one of us will have to make a decision when we vote. But the reality is it's changing. Like it or not, that's something we deal with too. And we're very fortunate, the individuals that come out and talk to their neighbors and work through what they're planning on doing. But the process doesn't include that. As a planning commission, we've got to look at a piece of land and decide if it's a recommendation that we send to the commissioners that it's the right time and place to make this change or not. So it's not an easy decision. We would like to know what exactly is going to happen there. But I will tell everyone that when we do a rezone and we've got a party that's telling us what they're going to do, that could last 10 minutes and it changes after the vote's done. So that's why it's very cautious, I've been over the years, to rezone anything, because what they're going to do there tomorrow may not be what they're doing 5 years from now. And that's what has spooked me over the years, is once we've rezoned it, it's rezoned, period. So, my comments. Back, Toby, did you?
Yeah, so yes, Commissioner Poppins, so these 4 lots were platted out in 2003. And I believe, and I didn't look at the plat directly, but I believe at that time, T would have had platting jurisdiction as they do today, so they would have been the one that approved the plat of that property.
So Toby, this is Eric again. So they basically would have been, platted out before the comprehensive plan as well then?
Yeah, before the current comprehensive plan, correct, yes.
And Toby, just to clarify, the current comprehensive plan that we have has this area for urban expansion?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Other commissioners, discussion.
I apologize, Toby, what is T? T's gonna have the rights to, City of T will have sole authority over the development and grading and the drainage. And their comp, I mean, they're looking at this as industrial also? Is that what they're wanting to go toward? Do we know?
So the first question's yes, this is under T subdivision authority, as you can see on the current, on the screen currently, that kind of pinkish area is all of theirs, so they will, yes, they will be responsible for all site improvements, the grading, drainage, and all of that. And urban expansion area means that we look towards their comprehensive plan for guidance. Their comprehensive plan, their current comprehensive plan identifies that as an employment center.
Okay.
So commercial, I assume commercial and industrial, it kind of leaves it open for that type of use.
All right. Commissioners, additional conversation, discussion?
I guess I've asked Mr. Hoffman twice when he's presented his deal, why that 2 acres was ever left as agriculture in the first place, and I don't think he ever really answered our question. I just, the whole situation baffles me. I don't, I mean, the fact that it could have been tagged on along with Mr. Denai's property and made a nice lot right there in the corner, or, I guess part of me feels the fact that, I mean, just because they're out of eligibilities, and I don't think we should feel that even though it's not an agricultural piece, that we have to be strong-armed into making it commercial because it doesn't fit anything else and he's out of eligibilities.
Sure.
Comment on that is I don't feel strong-armed at all, nor should anybody on this board for any of these decisions. We have to take a hard look at every circumstance and decide, what makes sense at the present time. We don't have crystal balls. We would probably not see any red in that area at all, and we'd be able to make a fresh decision at this point in time. The fact being is we have quite a mix. We have residential area, rural residential mixed with subdivision of ag land with houses in it. We've got commercial. And we have the state at recognizing that this area is changing dramatic to a point where they've got to make a significant impact, change to the interstate. That being said, I'm not convinced that it's the right time or place as there's urban development for the city. I personally am supporting municipalities growing from their edges outward so that they can provide sewer and police protection and all that. Our county resources are stretched extremely thin the way it is now to maintain the roads that we have, contain the infrastructure that we have for other services. We're spending in the excess of $2 million next year in housing prisoners. So when it comes to services, that when we change a use of land to something else, there is an impact, and it always comes back to the county typically and/or the township on this circumstance of 270th gravel road, which that is one question. Toby, where is the access to this parcel? I don't quite see it on the map.
I don't think there's a defined one, but I assume it would be off of 470th.
Okay, thank you for that, Toby. But the same token, this is a unique situation. You can look at this thing on both sides and make a decision. None of us should feel strong-arm. It's a decision you gotta feel that's appropriate for today, because hindsight, like I said, I don't think we'd see the yellow. I don't think we'd see the red, probably not see houses there either if we had had a crystal ball. So it's all part of change. So sometimes we're on the favor of the change, and sometimes we're not on the favor of the change.
All right, yeah, so my 2 cents in there, and I 100% agree, Mr. Pops, it is changing. What I'm coming back to is where Kevin worked directly with DJ and had approval and good neighbors and all that, and Kevin said yes, he wouldn't mind that, and I'm kind of leaning that way now for your reason of no. But like Mr. Poppin said, it's coming. It's just, if it's now or later, it will be there. So, what my thought is, say no for now and just see how the area develops, road coming through, and then might have a better feel for which way it should go. That's just my thoughts. All right, any additional questions or discussion?
This is Commissioner Scott on the phone. I'm just gonna throw my 2 cents in there, I guess, where I stand on it. That was a good point about the access. I don't know if anybody's checked into that, but without access from the county off the highway, I think that would put kind of a strain on townships if we got to come off the gravel road there for a commercial type situation. I guess the thing that concerns me is that when you look at it on a map, there's kind of residential all the way around it, and then you have this one piece that's there that just doesn't look like it really fits in. If it was to the east, it looks like it would fit in. And then when I hear the neighbors said that they've reached out and have interest in buying it, I guess I'd like to see that explored a little bit more, and maybe get to the point where they could work out a deal. Not saying you have to sell it to them, but at least have the discussion, see if you can make something happen. And then in regards to Commissioner Poppins, I agree that it's coming. And the residents that are there, please be aware that things are going to look a lot different there in 5 and 10 years coming down the road. But today, I guess those are the things I'd like to see first before we make this recommendation.
All right, thank you. Everyone up here, good? All right, we have a motion, a second. I'll do a roll call, and we will approve yes or deny no. Commissioner Hogan?
The motion was to approve the rezone?
Yes.
Correct.
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Commissioner Scott?
No.
Commissioner Poppins?
No.
And I am also a no. All right. Mr. Brown, next item, please.
And just for, if I may?
Yes,
Chair.
please. Yes.
Just for clarification, this is just a recommendation to the from the Planning and Zoning Board to the commission. And Toby will have a date somewhere on the calendar for us to talk about it there. So, but thanks everyone.
Okay, this next application is an application from Eric Willitson on behalf of Bart and Lori Roberts, sorry. And this subject parcel, they're proposing to construct an accessory building on the property. They're also constructing a house on the property. But they're proposing an accessory building that will be 6,000 square feet in size. As you're aware, the zoning ordinance requires in an A1 district that anything over 6,000 square, or anything over 1,500 square feet requires a conditional use permit for consideration in a public hearing. Subject property is zoned A1 agricultural, surrounding property is all zoned A1 agricultural. These are lots that were recently platted. They're being sold for residential development. There is houses being developed on portions of the lots. There really, in this particular area, there is no, what I'll say, kind of real residential or really residential development. A lot of it's just farmstead development. So there is, in the vicinity, there is really no comparison to the accessory type structures. There is agricultural farm buildings in the area that are of similar size, but nothing that's really accessory to residential in that particular area. And so the applicant did submit a site plan with the application, anticipating that the house would be built here. Access has been approved to go here, and the accessory building would be off to the south part of the property. The application, of course, this was an agricultural property, so there is no existing tree groves or those different types of things. The application didn't indicate any screening or anything that would be put on the property. Of course, that's not a standard of the ordinance that they place those in there, but just of note to let it be known of that. In the staff analysis, staff did note again that that there is no similar type structures in the area. Staff does recommend approval of this particular application with the conditions as presented in the staff report. With that, we'd happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
I should note that in the application, the applicant and the landowner identified that the building would be used for personal storage. So I know there is some questions about what's the size, 6,000 square foot needed for personal storage would be the use that's identified, so. Okay.
All right. If there's no questions, I'll ask the applicant or his representative to come forward and speak.
Evening, Eric Willardson, Willardson Lawn Engineering, here tonight on behalf of Lori and Bart Roberts. They have, as Toby indicated, secured a building permit for a new single-family house. It's 4,800 square feet, slab on grade, pretty substantial size house. So, and again, this building that they're proposing is for personal storage. And, this is, I believe, their retirement house and yard and this building to go along with it. So, I guess with that, like I said, as Toby has indicated, they've recommended approval of it. And they already have, like I said, secured a building permit. The house is under construction. So just wanted, and obviously need to go through the conditional use process to build something in excess of 1,500 square feet. So I guess with that, if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Eric. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I would like to ask anybody to come forward and speak in favor of the application. All right, seeing none, I will ask anyone in opposition of the application come forward.
Hi, I'm Elroy Bruns, 27593 472nd Avenue. I live just kitty corner across the corner, and I'd like to oppose this. First off, the corner has been flooded more times than what I can count in the last few years. It's taken the ends of the culverts off that corner already, and that backs up way into this property. And it's pretty hard to, if they're gonna build up or something, it's gonna create more water, and we don't need that. And the culverts aren't big enough the way it is in the first place. And then push more water to it, that I don't quite figure that. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition of the application? All right, seeing none, 1 second, yeah, hold on, Eric, not yet. All right, with that, I will close the floor to public comments, and we'll ask the commission to make a recommendation, and with that, then we can ask some questions of you, Eric.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the conditional use permit.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, any discussion?
Toby, can you pull up for everyone to see the, our Parcel browser with the risk maps and stuff on that, please? Thank you.
So as the applicant did mention, staff did approve a building permit. There was also with that building permit, a floodplain development permit associated with the house. As I'm sure there will be if the accessory building is approved, it will require a flood development permit as well. This is, as you can see, this property is not identified as a firm property. However, there is flood risk on the property. And so per the floodplain ordinance, it does require a floodplain development permit.
Okay. Eric, would you like to speak on the floodplain portion?
Yes, thank you. No, I just wanted to reiterate what Toby just said. We did get a floodplain development permit for the house. They want to get started on construction, so we didn't combine the two together. And they are under construction, and we will apply for a floodplain development permit if this conditional use is approved for this building. And it would be then designed 2 feet above base flood elevation for this. And they understand that there's some flood risk here, and then we'll build above it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Commissioners, any additional conversation, discussion? All right. If there's nothing farther, I will do roll call and we'll do a vote. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Congratulations, thank you. All right, Mr. Brown, next item, please.
Okay. So this next application is an application for a conditional use permit. As you can see, the property is zoned I-1 light industrial. There is an existing structure on the property. The previous permits and approvals on the property and for the building were primarily for warehousing and storage. The applicant is proposing to do light manufacturing on the property. And I'll say that it's closet shelving, and I'll let the applicant talk a little bit more, kind of the process of that, but it does fit under what is a conditional use as light manufacturing. Subject property, as you can see, is surrounded by lake zoning, and the property directly to the east, these properties have been annexed into the city of T. This, of course, is out just by the Lincoln County Airport, is just off to the east of this property here. And so staff did evaluate the application. As part of the application, the applicant also identified that they're going to be doing a paint booth within the building to doing, I think it's non-latex type things or latex. I forget on that part of it, but essentially it will require some building modifications and things like that. And so staff will, as part of the building permit approval process, will make sure that all compliance is met with what types of uses are to be part of the manufacturing part of the process. But again, this is a conditional use that's allowed within that district. And so as part of the staff analysis, staff did recommend approval of this application, subject to the conditions that were identified in the staff report. And really, staff feels, as does with all recommended approvals on it, that the recommended conditions should identify any types of issues that might occur on the property and try to alleviate those types of issues. And so I think most of those conditions should help with some of those issues there. But with that, again, staff does recommend approval of this application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff? I have a question. So you said building modifications, so that mean a sprinkler system will be required because of the painting?
Not necessarily, but that'll have to go through the building permit process.
Okay.
Zoning building permit. If there is, I haven't really talked too much with the applicant on the modifications part of it yet, but if, my anticipation is it will at least require a zoning permit, if not a building permit on it, so. This
Gotcha.
was, the site plan that was submitted with the application. So again, no exterior modifications proposed to the building, parking, there's enough justified parking for the application in that, so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? See none, invite the applicant to come forward and tell us about your application.
Okay, my name's Steve Soldwish. I live at 27087 479th Avenue in Harrisburg. I'm the contractor for Wiley Real Estate on the project. Basically, their company's growing. SOS, Save Our Space Cabinets, is the name of the company. They build closet shelving and some cabinetry that they make out of MDF material. So basically they have CNCs, they cut all the parts with CNCs. They got an edge bander in the building. They're gonna put edge banding on. Basically they've been doing the exact same thing across the interstate over on Charlotte Court for a few years. As far as the painting, they want to build a booth in there that's 30 by 40. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to make it, my intent would be to build it so that it is a 1 hour firewall, steel studs with 5/8 rock on both sides. But they have no, I actually have a copy of the products that they use, and they're all water-based. There will be no electrical inside that space. It'll be, they had a fire a few years ago, and not with this company, but they also own Sioux Falls Kitchen and Bath. And on the other side of the interstate, they had that problem. So they're paranoid about fires, and so they have no intent of putting anything in there that could create a problem as far as the fire goes. So they don't do a lot of painting. What they use that for is they make MDF doors, and then they paint those, and it's all water-based. And if they do any clear coat, it's all water-based. They don't use any of that anymore, any lacquer or anything like that. So, yeah, so that's what we're gonna do as far as the painting part. The other part is just basic. Like I said, I think they got 2 CNCs that they plan on setting up in there, and then an edge bander, and just making cabinets and closet shelving.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Commissioners, any questions for Scott?
Is there any extra, like filtration or anything that you have to put inside the building for the painting?
They're setting it up for like dust collection. They have a dust collector that hooks up to their equipment, and that all goes outside. And but it's the same type of equipment that they have in their other building. So I don't think they're not going to have any. It's not going to create any problem outside. I know that.
No smell, because one of the things, no extra smell.
It's just sawdust,
Okay.
basically, is all they have, the dust collection system. The rest of the scrap and stuff, they have dumpsters that sit outside. They put all the scrap pieces of plywood or MDF that they use, they put in the dumpsters, so.
In painting, there's gonna be no excess smells going out?
Nope,
The
it's all,
filtrations? or-
that's part of the advantage of using the water base. There is really no smell. And like I said, I do have the specifications they got me, if you guys wanna look at it.
Okay. Commissioners, any more questions? I think we're good. Thanks for Scott.
All right.
All right, at this time, I would ask anyone from the audience to come forward and speak in favor of the application. Seeing none, I will ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward. Seeing none, I will close the floor to public comment, and I'll ask a motion from the commission.
I would move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You like
Seeing
it to see it when business is good and they need to expand. So wish them well.
Yeah, my question about the fire was just if they did have to get a system, then the tax on the county water or something, you know, make sure they had enough pressure and all that, but that's nothing we have to worry about here, so.
No,
And
but-
again, that, I guess, is a rezone, it's not for that, so.
Yeah, I just hope and encourage the property owners to consider joining the municipality of T so they can get the water and services and stuff down the road, but separate issue, comment, probably not necessary, but definitely not necessary, but we'll move on.
All right, with that, we'll do a roll call. Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
And Jungling is a yes. Congratulations, good luck. Yep. Mr. Brown, please.
Okay, this last application is a application for a conditional use permit. This would allow a contractor shop and storage yard on this parcel that's approximately 2.14 acres in size. As you can recall, this property was recently rezoned by the county to I-1 light industrial. And so the next phase of that would be the conditional use permit to construct the contractor shop on the property. Again, subject area is a mixed use of different types of uses. But as you're aware, I believe this applicant has worked with the property owners in the surrounding area to identify anything that's there. I also did see some correspondence between some of the neighbors and the applicant, and so we did incorporate some of those things into the conditional use. They're concerned with primarily glare and some of those things from it. And then also the applicant did submit a site plan with the application. And that site plan identified that as the applicant has told us from the beginning, that he intends to construct the building towards the north end of the property and to preserve some of the screening trees that are to the south of the property that screen the adjacent property to the south, as well as all outside storage would be fenced in the rear, and that fencing would require slats or some type of screening on it and things like that. So staff did recommend approval of this application per the staff report. Staff again is recommending approval of this with 4 conditions to it, as are shown on the screen and in the staff analysis. Any questions of staff at this time? I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? All right, hearing none, I will ask the applicant come forward and discuss their application, please.
DJ Verhey, 7009 East Sierra Trail in Sioux Falls. Just speaking on 27284 470th. I guess we're just looking to get the conditional use permit to be able to operate a contractor shop. I own complete fence, and so this would be my building that I would be able to operate my business out of. And we would be occupying over half of the building initially. The overall goal is that the entire building would be occupied by complete fence. But it is possible that we could rent out a portion of the north end of the building initially. But the intent is that we would occupy the whole building as we grow, so. I've talked with the neighbors, or, you know, I guess at least Katie and Drew, and just kind of heard some of the concerns that the neighbor Kelly also brought up, and so just wanted to kind of keep those in mind as I going through the whole process. And so a lot of the things, you know, their concerns are the type of employees that I'm gonna have working there, and just, you know, like the lighting and kind of just preserving that lifestyle that they have out there. Keeping it quiet, keeping it clean. So I think, you know, one of the things that I talked with them about, I've got young kids, a 2-year-old and one that just turned 5. And, you know, a big part of this for me on top of the business is that I've got an area that is safe for my family to come out. We spend a lot of time, a lot of hours working throughout the summer, and so I think part of this particular location is for having a spot that's, you know, safe for my kids to run around. And that said, the quality of the people that I employ, that's one of my primary things that I think about. I want to be comfortable with the people working for me, to be able to be around my kids, my family, and not have concerns with the type of people that are working with me. So I think, I mean, kind of the same thing that I'm looking for is also similar to what Katie and Drew are focused on in that area. And so that's, you know, that's part of why this property's interested me from the get-go. And I think I just want to continue to kind of maintain that good neighborly relationship with them, and just have kind of a win-win. I don't need a busy location, and I just need a place that's safe to store my stuff.
All right, thank you, DJ. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not have a question, but I do have a comment. I want to applaud you for taking your neighbors into consideration and making that extra step right away. That makes life easier for you and them, and makes business easier, and just applaud you for that. That makes everything much easier for everybody, so thank you for doing that.
Is there anybody, I have a comment, but I'll wait until if there's anybody in opposition or question or anything like that, so.
Okay. I've got, everyone's good? Okay. Thank you, DJ. All right, with that, I'll ask anyone in favor of the applicant to come forward and speak.
Drew Denai, 27290 470th. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Hogan said. DJ's been very forthcoming with the whole process and worked with us with any concerns, and I really feel like he's going to be a good neighbor and going to be an asset to the community around us. Like he said, he doesn't have a whole lot of traffic flow. That was one of the things that really helped change my mind, you know, on the lot to the south of us. We don't know what would go in there, what kind of people would be coming at all hours, if it was a gas station or whatever. But I know he's just a hardworking man with a crew and a family, you know. We feel like we could be friends and at least good neighbors, you know. So I really have no issues with his buildings or his operation of what he's intending to do, so.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience in favor of the application? Seeing none. All right, at this time, I'll ask anyone in opposition of the application to come forward, please. All right, seeing none, I will close the floor to public comment, and I'll ask a motion of the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Pappas.
Apologies for dragging out what I thought could have been a very quick meeting, but give me the opportunity to speak, and shame on you.
I'm just following the rules.
Again, I want to thank you for coming forth, talking to your neighbors. But I do want everyone to understand that may be listening or ever listening to this after tonight's meeting. We have rezoned it. That doesn't say what's coming afterwards. This gentleman may have a change of heart, sells it. It's been rezoned. Landscape has now forever changed. As long as he's there, I think we're all gonna get along great, all that kind of attitude. But again, this county is a magnificent landscape. But it's not the same landscape that 1966 when I was born in Sioux Falls and resided in Lincoln County. I'm very proud of what it is now, but it's called heartburn amongst neighbors. It's called heartburn among what used to be friends and family. And it's a difficult position. And I hope the public understands that when they talk to a planning and zoning representative or a member of the commission, it's not an easy job because they have to look at both sides and they have to look at it fairly amongst everyone. It's sometimes the position that they have to take is based on rules and laws and not just how you feel. So I applaud neighbors when they can get along because that does make our job so much easier. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Poppins. Anyone else like to have a discussion or a comment? Only thing I got is I'm a neighbor of yours too, own that barn property down the road, so maybe I'll stop by and say hi if I see you in there. All right, with that, let's do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. Congratulations. With that, Mr. Brown, any new business?
None, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do we have any joint meetings coming up, joint commission meetings?
No applications for the joint. You will have applications in a meeting, though, next month at your regular meeting, so.
Okay, thank you. If there's any just further discussion, I'll move for adjournment. The motion a second.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 Everyone against? We're good, thank you.